Welcome and thank you for watching. Hi, I'm John. I'm an English teacher over at Global. Recently, I was asked to share some tips and tricks for pulling data from Naviance. What I'm about to show you may feel a little nerdy, but promise you it's important. Before we get into what we're doing with the data, let's take a minute and talk about why. I mean, we're all busy. Why would someone take this kind of time to assemble and report Naviance data? We all know that Naviance reports lots of performance data. We know that customizing that report is time-consuming and tedious. And we know that what you get doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. But we also know something else. Schools run on data, and principals are to data as, well, my friend's puggle is to food. No, they really are. You see, this is Katie. She's a sweet little puggle around 5 years old. Absolutely fantastic dog. Smart, obedient, really fun to be around. And as you can see, Katie hasn't missed too many meals. Katie will eat every day. If someone forgets to feed her, she'll go and find the food on her own. You might come home to find that she's made her way into the pantry or jumped on top of a 40-inch counter just to get at a meal. But believe me, this tiny little pup never goes a day without. Now, how does that connect to principals? Well, principals are amazing, wonderful people. A big part of a principal's job is making decisions. Lots of decisions. They have to decide about resources and materials and where everything can do the most good for kids. And how do they make those decisions? By looking at data. They want to know what's working and they want to be able to prove it with that data. So you may walk into a meeting one day and be asked to explain someone else's data, which isn't a whole lot of fun. Or you can provide the data yourself. If you're like me, you probably want to make it easy for your principal to support your program. Anyway, that's really what's good for kids. So I'm about to ask you to do something that may feel a little bit nerdy and very math-oriented, but believe me, you're going to do the right thing for your students and for your school. And your principal will appreciate it too. So let's get started. So here we are at the very familiar Naviance dashboard. The Naviance dashboard is usually, for most of us who do Naviance for a school, our entryway into it. Today we're going to deal with the Reports tab, and you're going to see a lot of reports in this tab, some of which will be useful to you as they are. But I'm going to show you a couple of tricks to deal with task completion today. So we're going to go down to Current Task Completion Status. I'm going to go over to Choose Settings, and this is the one that gives you a huge amount of information. We're going to use Excel to wash it down. We're going to customize it just a little bit. I want to pull task completion status for grades 7 and 8. To do that, I have to actually pick the grades backwards, which means I will go from grade 8 to grade 7. If you go grade 7 to 8, it will give you an error message. I click continue and it brings me over to the tasks that we want to check. Now, you can go through here and remove the ones you don't want, or remove them all and add the ones you do want, and click back and forth between these things and go back and forth adding and subtracting. It's not a particularly efficient way to do it. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to click continue, and I'm going to go ahead and select them all. You'll see the default is select all. I'm going to select them all. Go for it. It's compiling the report. Once it compiles the report, it gives you many options for pulling a report. PDF is what you're going to be tempted to click on. PDF is the one that I showed you in the slideshow earlier. It's not a particularly useful report unless you really customize it. CSV is the one you want to use. CSV stands for comma-separated values. It is something that you will have as an option. It will open in Excel. I'm going to just dump it on my desktop, click Save, and away we go. I've pulled the CSV, and it should be waiting for me on my desktop. So let's start working with the raw data. And when we finished, we had downloaded this CSV file. The CSV file is a special text file, and the reason it's kind of special and kind of cool is if you double click on it, as I just did, Excel understands that it is something it needs to open and something it needs to read. I can get into importing later on, but I'm just going to, for now, just keep it simple and double click it and open it. The first thing you want to do when you open your CSV file is save it as an Excel workbook. File, Save As, it's the same on both Mac and PC. I am, for the sake of today's demonstration, going to put it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it Today, and I'm going to change the workbook to an Excel workbook. You just want to do that so your data, your raw data stays there, and so that you can use all of Excel's features, and you get some very funny save messages if you don't just turn it into an Excel workbook. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you'll see it, threw it on the desktop. And now I'm in that document. All well and good. I want to make one special privacy note. Over here, you see a list of 94 names. These are fake names from a name randomizer. The rest of the data are authentic. However, I removed all identifiers, so these are completely safe for use on the web. Now, back to our story. What do I do with this colossal hundreds and hundreds of cells to make sense, something that's useful to us? Well, today, the first thing we're going to try to do is we're going to make Excel count how many tasks each child has completed. We're going to have it do it for us automatically. The first couple of times you do this, this may be a little awkward, but I've gotten to the point where, having done this task a few times, you're going to get pretty quick at it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the last line of the database, right over here. And you may think it's here. It's really not. It's right here. How do you know it's empty? When you click on a cell, if something goes in here, that means something's in the cell. If I click over here, nothing's here. That means nothing's in the cell. And I'm going to call this column task completion. I'm going to type it correctly. So there we go. This column is for task completion. I'm going to tell it for each one of these cells, count up the number of completed tasks for each kid. Simple enough. How am I going to do it? A couple of magic things. First of all, I'm going to throw in a filter. To get a filter is a way of sorting each one of these columns by what's in it without messing up the database. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what we're doing. It's a little bit hard to read. And I'm going to go over to row 1. To select row 1, you click on the number 1. Don't click on the first cell. You click on the first cell, you've only selected the first cell. Click on the first row, and I'm going to go to data. I'm going to enter something called filter. Just do it for now. Later on, you're going to love filters, but you'll learn early on, throw the filters on everything because it makes data a lot easier to mess with. Next, I'm going to go over here and we are going to insert something called a function. Functions are extremely cool. Functions are how you make Excel do your grunt work for you. And you get them through the wizards. You get them by hitting this FX thing right here. We're going to insert a function. It even gave me the hover table, or the hover message to tell me this is the insert function menu. Where am I going to put it? I'm going to put it right here. I could put it here. I could put it here. No, I want to put it right there for this kid. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to get a function that's going to count the number of completed lessons. Well, function. Now, COUNTIF is already up there, but COUNTIF may not be up there. When you open this in a Mac, the formula builder shows up on the right side. When you open the formula builder on a PC, it shows up as a pop-up window. Do not worry, they are the same thing. I'm going to click and type in COUNTIF. I don't have to do that for my demonstration because it was already up, but I want to let you know that if you type COUNTIF, then you'll get the wizard for you. I double click it and it gives me the formula builder. It's a great little wizard. It's asking for two pieces of information, the range and the criteria. The range is a simple question. Where do I look? What range of cells? Where am I looking? I'm going to click on this first cell and I'm going to hold my mouse button down. I'm going to drag to the left. Don't worry, you're going to drag beyond the end of the screen. You'll drag over the wrong things. Just keep your mouse finger down the mouse. Drag a whole bunch of cells in. You'll fix it later. Just stay with it. You'll see I'm getting close. Just hold your finger down. Keep sliding to the left. You're doing a good job. And you're going to go right to the last line of data. Don't give any identifiers. We don't need to count anything in the identifiers. We're counting tasks. So I've counted all of the tasks in row 2. Release the mouse and it selects everything for you. If you have to do that a couple of times, don't worry. Then it's looking for something called criteria. Criteria is saying, what do I look for? Well, let me look at the data. If you look at the data, a lot of things say NA. There are a few things that say not started, and a bunch of things that say completed. The magic word I'm looking for is completed, and you'll notice it's all lowercase, and we give you a warning, type it without spaces, don't put any extra spaces at the end. It's looking for something called a text string. In other words, a bunch of letters exactly in that order. It doesn't know how to read the word completed, it just looks for a set of text strings, a C followed by an O, etc., completed. And I'm going to hit either done or return. Just so it can illustrate it, I'll click done. And there it is. Do not be alarmed. It gave you a 0. You did it correctly, but you'll see that this student has actually completed, Wade Morton has completed no tasks. Now watch another cool thing. I've counted one kid. No, you don't have to do this 94 times. Do it once. Then we're going to zoom in a little bit. I use my little zoom bar down here. Look at my square. At the bottom right-hand corner of the square, there's this little black dot or dark green dot. That dark green dot is called a handle. Grab it and pull. What's going to happen is you're going to drag it right to the bottom of the list, and lo and behold, you have every single student's completion status. I happen to know that in my database I have 17 tasks. Depending on your school, you're going to have a different number of tasks. Some schools may have 30 or 40 tasks. Some schools may have 5 or 6. But your school has however many tasks it has, and this counted. This child has completed 12. This child has completed 11, etc., etc. Now, somewhat useful, but what's the problem? You've already figured it out. Task completion is over here, and the child's information is way over here. That's impossible to work with. Don't worry, we have another trick. We're going to use the hide command. I'm going to select a bunch of columns. Now to select a column, you click on the letter. Do not click down in here. If you click on it here, you're just going to drag and click a bunch of cells. But I'm going to take all of the columns that have tasks in it. That starts at C. I'm going to click and drag to the right, go beyond the end, scanning right to the end, and look, I went beyond. Don't worry, you're going to go beyond. You have to slide. Just don't let go of your button until you're ready. I am now ready. I haven't let go of my button yet. I am to the last task. I know I'm at my first task. I'm going to click and let go. All I've done is select it. Now I'm going to put my cursor over the column headings. I'm going to right click. If you have a Mac mouse with one button, this is command click. Otherwise, it's the right click. I'm going to right click. The menu comes up, and I use this option called hide. I promise you, you have to click hide. Do not click delete. Do not click cut. If you click delete and cut, all of these will break. Because what you told it to do is you told it to count all those columns. If you delete all those columns, it will be counting data that aren't there. So you hide it. So you don't want to see it. You just want it to go look at it and make it go away. You don't want to be bothered with it. Now look what we have. A neat little 3-column database that shows what each child has done. Where do the filters come in? That's the last thing I'm going to tell you. It's the first thing I had you do, and the last thing I'm having you watch. If I go to the filters, let me drag this over a little bit so you can see how it opens up. I click on this filter. I can pull certain pieces of information. Counselor, probably going to want to know who's done nothing or almost nothing. So I'm going to pull all my zeros. I'm going to click select. Right now, the filter says I'm going to pick all the rows with every piece of data. So I've selected literally nothing. I'm going to click select all, which is deselecting everything. You see how my buttons turn off. I want to know just my zeros. These are just the students who've done no Naviance work. Look, these are my crisis kids. I got to go out and find those kids. Great. Or your principal wants to know who are your Naviance all-stars. Well, these are kids who've maybe done almost all of them. So I'll deselect and I'll pick, who are the kids who've done 14, 15, and ostensibly I would probably pick 16 and 17, but we don't have any 16s. So these are the kids who've done 14 or more tasks. So these are your high performers in Naviance. It lets you know right away. Well, I'm going to take a pause right now so you can practice that, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you a neat trick on how to turn this into the kind of a pie chart that your principal is going to want to see. So here we are back at our data, and right now we have something that's handy for us, but doesn't necessarily wow the parents or the principal. Well, we're going to try to turn this into something that is quite useful. And so we're going to make a pie chart out of all of this. To do that kind of summary data, I usually open up a whole new worksheet called Summaries. So I'm going to do that right now. So we have a new worksheet called Summaries. I'm going to zoom in because I think this is a little bit hard to read. Move over to the A, and here we go. We're going to collect 3 pieces of data. One is not engaged. That's for students who've done nothing in Naviance. We want to get a percentage of that. And then students who are engaged. And then we have students who are at or above goal. And just as a matter of practice, don't do @ because it just comes out goofy on Excel. / means divide. I try to avoid that symbol whenever I can. And then I'm going to do a little trick that will make sense later. I'm going to put my raw number here, and I'm going to put my percentage here. And in order to get something to show up as a percentage, I'm going to do something that's a neat little trick. I'm going to select this column. I'm going to go over to the percentage button right here under home and click percentage. Now, everything that shows up in here automatically be converted to a number. So if I put in 54, it will come out as 54%. It won't come out as 54. And on we go. So we're going to do that, clear out all these for now because we don't need that at the moment. This is what we're looking for. Now, I'm going to perform a count function. Countif, just like we did. We created these. Remember, they were all countifs? Well, I'm going to do a bunch more countifs on my countifs. So to do that, I'm going to select this range of data. If you remember, a range is simply just a bunch of cells, and they call it a range, so it's a group. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm actually going to select this range of cells and give it a name. By doing that, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to call it Define Name. It will offer you the name for the data range as task completion. It steals the column header. I'm going to, for the sake of our demonstration, change it to tasks. So here it is. It says tasks. And now every time I want to do something with all these numbers, I just tell Excel, go look at tasks. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to count up the not engaged. And if you remember, those are the kids who've racked up a 0. So I'll click on my formula builder here. And I'm going to search up COUNTIF, even though it's in the front. I'll show you how to have good habits. COUNTIF is not always up front. I'll click it. It gives me my formula builder. And what range do I use? Yes, I could go back and I could keep redefining that range. I don't need to. I'm going to call it tasks. And that's the range I'm looking on. I'm going to tell it to look in that range for the number 0. So count up the zeros. And it tells me, look, there they are. 10 kids have done a 0 on that. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the kids who are at or above goal. To do that, it's yet another count command. I'm going to use a countif again, and I'm going to tell it to look at tasks, and then don't use the space, my bad. And then I'm going to tell it to look at everything over 6. I could do greater than or equal to 7 as well. I just like to make it clean, and I do greater than 6. So everybody's at 7 or above. And 51 kids have done that. Now I know I have 94 kids in the database. So I could add 51 plus 10, that's 61. 94 minus 61 leaves me 33. I could put a 33 in here and I could be done. But we want to use formula today because a lot of you have different size databases and those databases will change. So I'm going to create a new formula. And under COUNTIF, you'll usually get the option to do COUNTIFs. COUNTIF-S. COUNTIFs means we're doing more than one COUNTIF. Well, I'm going to want to do 2. Because I'm going to want to find out the ones that are greater than 0 and are less than 7. So I'm going to add 2 more columns. First one asks for a range, criteria range. Looks all fancy and geeky. It's just looking for the word tasks again. And the criteria for the first task is, okay, give me all the ones that are greater than 0. But then go back to tasks again. They have to be greater than 0, but they also have to be less than 7. So I'm going to tell it, can be greater than 0, less than 7. Click, 33. Wow, we know we're right. That's good. So far, so good. Now I'm going to go over the percentages. And to get a percentage, I happen to know they're 91. If I didn't know how many kids were there, I could do a simple add, and those 94, I said 91, I apologize. But I could add these up and get my number 94. And I'm going to go over here and say, what percentage is 10 of 94? Well, if you remember from back when you learned how to do that in math class, you are simply going to do 10 divided by 94 and then convert the number. Well, Excel is going to do it for me. To do a simple math equation, all I need to do is put in an equal sign. That tells Excel, do math. And I'm going to tell it to take the number in this cell, whatever that number is, and divide it by 94. And I'm going to click return, and it tells me 11%. Pull out your calculator, it'll equal something close to 11%. And do I have to do it here? Yes, I could. I could type this divided by 94 and I'd be fine. Or, remember what we learned last time we did this. This handle and dragging the function, doing a drop down like that, will work for every single one. If I had 52 little pieces of data and I want to do the exact same percentage configuration, I could do this as many times as I needed to. So far, so good. This is pretty straightforward. Now, to make this look pretty, I could easily just take all of this and I could put a nice box around it. And once I went to printing, it would look nice. I could go over to File Print and it would show me there's what it looks like. I don't need to do that, but that's one of my options. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pie chart, because who doesn't love a pie chart, right? So to get a pie chart, you have to go to the Insert tab, because you're going to insert a pie chart. I'm going to tell it to make a pie chart out of this mess. I could make it out of all of this. I'm just going to make it out of the percentages. Go to Insert, and here's my little pie chart button. And if I click I click right on it, it's just going to take the default pie chart. I'm going to click the little arrow, look around. Do I want big to small? Do I want a little 3D pie? Let's pick a straightforward pie. There we go. Drops us in a pie chart. That's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that pie chart. But we want to do something a little bit better, because we're special. So we're going to get rid of that. And I'm going to go click on this gray area, because I don't know about you, but I never got excited about a gray. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add a data label. So that'll be help. And I'm going to go into Format Data Point. And it gives me options under Format Data Point. And notice I've selected just the gray. I don't like the gray. Gray's boring to me. So not for an exciting color. We want an exciting color. So let's get green. So here we go. Get this nice bright green. Yay. These are the kids who are at or above goal. And what we want to do is we want to go back to it and you format data labels. We're going to actually want to call it the category name. So at or above goal, 54%. And we're going to want to put in the percentage. So there we go. And it gives us our three things. And right in here, that's giving me, because I want unchecked value here. And at or above goal, 50%. Well, wait, if I have that labeled, I don't need this. So select it, delete it. Percentage, that's useless. Double click. Go in here, we're going to call it Naviance Progress Today. And that's pretty bad. That's pretty good. And we're going to open it up. Now it's a little better. It's a little bigger. You can continue to format this, but this kind of a thing you could copy. You could then drop it into a PowerPoint, or if you were a Mac user, you could do all of this in the same stuff in Numbers, and you could drop it into a Keynote, or take this and drop it into a Keynote, and it would all work the same way. And now you have a neat little pie chart to show how kids are performing and completing their Naviance tasks. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.